If you're watching this video, you're most likely coming to Emporia and flying 925 Mike Delta. This is a basic legacy aircraft. I just want to give an overview of our cockpit setup so that when you arrive, it's not a surprise. In the cockpit, starting from the top left, we have our ELT switch mounted on the top left. Next to that is our clock / outside air temperature reading / battery voltmeter. Currently showing that we're plugged into shore power. The E on the end is not an exceedance, however it is showing the electrical power reading. If we select the red button above it, it'll cycle through outside air temperature in Fahrenheit, Celsius, and then back to voltage. Below there you can control the timer to start and stop to count down the 2-minute cooldown. Below that you have the fuel pressure, fuel quantity, transmission oil, and temperature gauge. On the right, torque, MGT, NG, and oil instruments. To the left of that, you'll have a fuel quantity check. We'll select that and release, standard for the 407s. We have an overspeed test button there for first start of the day to test to make sure that it'll shut off at idle, and then our horn switch here. And when I press it, you'll notice that it's very easy to hear because it runs through a speaker instead of through the helmet. Indistinguishable. Next to the right of those instruments is our 6-pack setup. Normal information there. And then on the right side, our pedal stop release switch located here. And then at the bottom is our FADEC mode switch. In the middle, you'll see that we have our isolate button. That is to isolate, de-isolate, and then the call button, which they may call you on. We're going to move on and talk about avionics. And in avionics, I turned the light off so you can see that the cockpit is pretty dark. We're inside the hangar. However, as the standard 407 will adjust the interior lighting switch, this will actually backlight the cockpit instruments with a green glow, NVG compatible. Just wanted to go over that function. I know in a 407 GX it'll change the lighting of the display, but in ours it just changes the backlighting of the instrumentation. One thing that is on now, as you can see, is our radar altimeter. To test the radar altimeter, you'll turn the radar altimeter down to 0. You'll press it, and then the DH goes from bold DH to unbold, and then when we rotate it in the helmet, you'll now hear the altitude low warning, and then you can adjust that altitude warning to the altitude of your desire. Moving down onto the comm panel, our first 3 comm switches are going to be down, aux, comm 1, and comm 2. It is going to be selected by this silver switch, hard to read, but above it says Motorola, and below is our Sky Connect for the Satcom or Satphone. Normally we're going to be using the 800 Motorola. Moving down in our comm package, we can see our comm 1, which is a Garmin 430, and it is pretty standard Garmin 430. Below our 430 is our comm 2. Comm 2 has a primary and a standby frequency that can be swapped with the swap button. And also you can select the monitor button if you want to monitor whatever's in the standby. So if you're up listening to ATIS, you can monitor air-to-air frequency and standby. The volume is adjustable by the knob on the far left. Hard to see here in this video, the same as the comm 1. Below that is our transponder, normal transponder there. And then below that is our SATCOM. In order to use the SATCOM, there is a sheet in the aircraft that kind of goes through it. But as a quick run through, there's a knob, hard to see again, on the left. We'll press and hold that knob, and that'll allow us to turn the knob right until we get to phone numbers. We'll release on that press, and now if we rotate to the right, we can select through there. So AirCom, we'll press and hold that until it starts to dial. Last piece of avionics, and this one's pretty unique, is our Garmin 796. It is a touchscreen GPS system that is not used for primary navigation. However, it is extremely useful. We can tell right now that all the navigation systems are updated databases, same as our 430, and they can be updated using the same program. We're going to go ahead and acknowledge that it is updated. It brings us to our home screen. As we come up to the home screen, if we need to, we can go into setup and change the lighting and make it brighter or dimmer as needed. It generally will set up based on the outside lighting, just like a phone. However, if it doesn't, this is where you can go in there and adjust that backlighting. Alright, from there, when we first start the aircraft up, it takes a few minutes once the avionics are on, and I'll go over how to set up the avionics powering in a minute. But we'll go to the setup and we'll select the Bluetooth. We're looking for the GLDR system and we'll select connect. Sometimes it'll show connected here, but it won't be actually connected. The way you'll know in about 3 to 5 seconds, you'll see the bars light up for the Sirius XM. If it doesn't, what you'll do is you'll just disconnect it here, ask to unpair yes, and we'll acknowledge that it's disconnected, and then we'll wait a minute before selecting to the not connected to try to reconnect again. And again, this should take just a couple seconds and then you'll see it connect with the Sirius XM. We'll go back into the map feature. Generally most of our flying is done using this map page. However, if you like flying via the sectional, you can select the chart button in the top right corner and you'll actually see what no GX aircraft has is a VFR sectional. Alright, going back over to the map function, one of the nice features about this is that you can touch enable the screen, and if you select the airfield, you can bring up, it says KEMP, you can bring up the information, so it'll have information about the airport, the frequencies, the weather as it pulls up from the Sirius XM, AOPA information, as well as charts, and it shows a geo-rectified approach chart in here. We'll go back over to info and then back over to map so we can see this. If you want to, you can use the terrain feature and even look at the Sirius XM weather, zoom in and out of the weather in the area to see that. And from here you can also, if you wanted to, select the different airports in the area to bring up their weather and review that. This is, like I said, a unique system to the aircraft that I have flown, and this may require just some practice to get used to using it. Plug in the start cart and put yourself in a couple directs. Speaking of directs, we'll select the direct button, and from there you can type in the identifier and hit enter, and that'll bring in the direct. We just acknowledge that and it gives us a direct up to Forbes. If you're getting a scene, you don't want to program a point, we hit the direct button, like 3 little marks here, and it'll say enter coordinates. From there, we'll use the left and right to adjust the coordinates, and once we're good with that coordinate, we'll select OK, and it'll drop an MAP and temporary point, and we'll select activate, and it'll draw us a line down to it. This makes getting to scenes a lot quicker and easier than having to program a new point in the system to get you there, or editing your pre-prod point that you had before. This is a short video on our oxygen system for 925 Mike Delta. It's a little bit different than some of the other aircraft, and I just wanted to go over the differences. One, we have a mechanical valve that turns on and off the oxygen in order to minimize the loss of oxygen. And then next to that, that is our release pin. We still have to depressurize the system, and normally you'll do that by turning this bottle off, turning on the aircraft power, turning on the electronic oxygen switch, and then purging out using the medic oxygen purge to get rid of all the extra pressure in the system. Once that's bled out, then we can plug in the oxygen to pressurize it, and then we'll open that valve up. This valve should be off unless we are expecting to transport a patient, because otherwise our oxygen will slowly leak out. Not an exorbitant amount, but enough that it would be noticeable.